Hello chess fans and welcome to Chess5, and today we are going to talk about the game between Alireza versus David Howell, and this game is from the fitedchess.com Grand Swiss 2021, and this is the 10th round and only one round is remaining. Total 11 rounds are there and the top 2 players would be qualified for the candidates tournament played in 2022, and the winner of the candidates tournament would be challenging the world champion. Okay. So we have this 10th round between Alireza and David Howell. So basically both the players are having the same points with Caruana. Total 3 players are in the lead with 6.5 points from 9 rounds. So this game is actually very important for all top 3 players. Okay, because both these 2 players are carrying the same amount of points. So the winner and the loser would be the one getting most affected. So definitely both the players are trying to win this game. And yep, David Howell is first of all a very nice commentator. He commentates a high level chess like championships between Magnus Carlsen, like that. And Alireza is a very strong young player. Okay, so this game is going to be definitely very interesting. So let's check it out, this game. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess Vibes. So, Alireza with the white pieces started the game with 1 e4, and David Howell with the black pieces replied with e5. We have knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, and now we have bishop c5. So we have the Go piano opening. And first of all, before showing you more moves, I want to say that David Howell currently just in a winning streak. He just won 3 games in a row, so it's actually very hard to defeat him because you can say that he's in his top form. Okay, so after bishop c5, Alireza played castle. We have knight to f6, d3, h6. So the idea of playing h6, there can be 2 ideas. Perhaps David Howell can go for an attack by playing g5. And second idea here is black is basically blocking the bishop to come on g5 for pinning the knight on f6. So after h6, white played c3. And okay, in the 9th round against Fabiano Caruana, Alireza gone for the same variation after playing c3. Because c3, it gives white many chances to play something like b4, something like d4. So I personally feel c3 is like a very good move in the Go piano. So after c3, black played d6. We have rook e1, castle by black, h3, stopping this bishop to g4 ideas. We have a5, so definitely grabbing more space on the queen side. And Alireza simply played knight to d2. So the idea of playing knight to d2, there could be 2 ideas. White can go for knight b3 hitting the bishop, but it doesn't look much effective. So I think white idea must have be to play knight f1, knight g3 and go for this very nice safety for the king, and also there could be some deadly attacks for the black king. So after knight to d2, black played bishop e6, going for a bishop trade, and white simply played bishop to b5, ignoring the bishop trade and going for the knight on c6. Black played bishop to a7. We have knight f1, knight to e7, so that now the bishop cannot no longer can capture the knight, just weakening up the black pawn structure. And okay, black is also preparing to play c6 followed by d5 at some point. So after knight to e7, white played knight to g3. Perhaps the idea could be to play something like knight to f5 at some point. First of all, now it cannot be possible because there are 2 attackers. So we have c6 by black hitting the bishop. Bishop b4, b5 grabbing more space hitting the bishop. Bishop to c2, and now we have finally a4 by black. So definitely black is definitely having much more space on the queen side comparatively to white pawn structure. And after a4, Alireza played d4. He have to do something or else black will simply come up with the move d5. So that's why he decided to open up the position with d4. And okay, white is definitely having a much better control in the center. So after d4, black is having actually many options. He can capture the pawn, he can play something else. So after d4, black decided to play knight to g6, giving much more protection to the pawn on e5. And asking that does white want to grab the pawn, does white want to push the pawn, or does white want to play something else? Alireza simply played bishop to e3. He's like, okay, I'm not going to do anything in the center because I'm already having a perfect center. So why to just mess it up by capturing the pawn or pushing up the pawn? I'm already having a much better control in the center. So he's just keeping the center under control, doing nothing special, just developing his pieces. After bishop e3, black played rook to e8. We have bishop d3, bishop to b6, a3, so that now all the future plans of playing b4 is just shut down completely. We have queen to c7 by black, so definitely black ideas could be to play rook d8 and open up the position with d5 at some point. We have rook c1, bringing the last piece into the game. Bishop to a5, rook to e2. We have queen to b7 by black, and now finally we have c4 by Alireza. After c4, okay, first of all, after capturing the pawn, the queen is not hitting the pawn because the rook is protecting the pawn, and black is having options. Black can either push the pawn, black can either capture the pawn, because I think white is already prepared to push the pawn, perhaps, or white can also capture the pawn, but I think pushing the pawn looks much stronger. So after c4, black played b into c4, capturing the pawn, bishop into c4, and finally we have d5 by black. So now the center is covered with black 2 pawns and white 2 pawns, completely covered. Now something exchanges are going to happen definitely. So after d5, Alireza first went back with the bishop by playing bishop d3. And now David Howard decided to open up the position with e into d4, capturing the pawn. We have knight into d4, bishop d7 because the knight was hitting the pawn with the rook. So we have bishop to d7, and now we have knight to f5 by white. Yeah, knight to f5 looking already dangerous for black because some sacrifices can come on g7. Even this knight d6 is already very deadly, hitting the queen, hitting the rook. So after knight to f5, black played bishop to c7, covering the square on d6. And white decided to capture the pawn on the center with e into d5. We have c into d5. And now we have bishop to d4. So definitely white idea is to capture the knight on f6. And after g into f6, black pawn structure is already very scrambled up. So after bishop d4, black played bishop to e5. Idea was very simple. If white captures the bishop, black will capture the bishop with the knight or with the rook. So here's your chance. David Howell just made a blunder in the position. At the place of playing something like bishop to e5, a better move could have been to simply play bishop into g3, capturing the knight, knight into g3, knight to f4, hitting the bishop, hitting the rook. So after rook into e8 check, knight into e8, and okay, black position is a little bit passive, but okay, after rook c8, a couple of exchanges would rather make the position equal. Slightly better for white, but a holdable position. But bishop e5 was played, which was a blunder. So here's your chance. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move played by Alireza Firouzja in this current position. You are in the shoes of Alireza Firouzja, so think carefully. Okay, so I hope that you have had a very nice deep thought and you would have came up with the best move in the position and a very fantastic move, which is knight into h6 check, capturing the pawn. And the basic idea of just sacrificing the knight in this position was to just remove the defender of g6 knight. The idea of just playing knight into h6 now the bishop on d3 is hitting the knight on g6. And after removing the knight from the g6 square, then you can see that the bishop on e5 is just double attacked and there is only single protector. Currently, there is 2 protectors, but after removing the knight from the g6 square, there's the only single protector. So this was the idea of Alireza Firouzja. And after knight into h6 check, black is kind of forced to capture the knight. So David Howell simply captures the knight. And now we have bishop into g6. And after bishop into g6, if you try to capture the bishop, bishop into e5 is already completely winning for white because the knight is hanging. Rook to c7 hitting the queen, hitting the bishop is already very strong. So after bishop into g6, David Howell decided to capture the knight on g3 with the bishop. And here we have rook into e8 check, rook into e8, and here comes queen f3, hitting the knight, hitting the bishop, and both the pieces are just completely off the board. And okay, you can also capture the bishop in this position. It's already fine. But he went for queen f3, a bit of a stylish move. After queen f3, we have queen to c6. A very you can say a very nice try by David Howell. Black is basically sacrificing the queen, and you actually cannot capture the queen because a very strong move. Rook e1 and game is over. It's back rank mate. It's a complete back rank mate. A very nice try by David Howell. And queen c6 is actually the best move in the current position. So, first of all those who are thinking what will happen after f into g6. After f into g6, there is only single move which gives the advantage to white, which is queen into f6. After queen into f6, capturing the knight, basically white knows that white is a piece down. But if you look carefully, the bishop is attacked currently, and second that white is threatening a checkmate on g7, and even queen h8 is also very powerful. So that's why queen c6 was played, a very nice try by David Howell. So that's the only single move in this position which gives white an slight advantage, or else other moves are just completely winning for black. Not completely, but yeah, just better for black. So the only move in this position here is, this is my second question. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move played by Alireza Firouzja. It's not easy to find, so think hard. Okay, so I think that you would have definitely had a very nice thought, and you would have probably came up with the move bishop to c2. Definitely very hard to spot. After bishop c2, the idea here is very simple. Now the queen cannot attack the rook. And after bishop c2, black played bishop to b8 back. And all those who are thinking why not to play something like queen into c2, white cannot capture the queen because it's still a back rank mate. Yes, you can definitely go for playing queen into c2, but after queen into c2, there comes a very nice move by white, which is queen into g3 check, and it comes with a check. And after, you are forced to basically pull the queen back, or else if you try to just pull the king back, then just black has already lost his queen. So that is the reason queen into c2 was not played by David Howell, and black played bishop to b8 back. We have queen into f6, threatening a mate on g7 and even on h8. So we have a queen trade, rook to c8, hitting basically the bishop is pinned now. Bishop c3, and a very nice move by David Howell, d4, very nice move. Basically cannot capture the pawn because a very strong move coming up, bishop to f4, hitting the rook. After playing bishop e3, bishop trade, bishop f5, white is basically forced to capture the bishop. And after rook into c1 check, basically black is better in the position. Definitely not an easy endgame to win for black either, but black is at least better. So that's why after playing d4, white played bishop d2 back. We have king g7 protecting the pawn on h6, bishop d3. If you have a rook trade, and if you just count the materials, so white is the pawn up, definitely white is having an advantage. So let's check it out what happened in the game. After bishop into c1, black played first h5, h4, bishop to c6, g3, bishop to d7, king to f1. First, Alireza simply just solidify his pawn structure, keeping the pawn structure in a perfect shape. Then he slowly bring his king into the game. King d2, bishop goes back, protecting the pawn on a4 because bishop b5 was already very strong. King c2, bishop to e6, and now bishop b5, hitting the pawn. We have bishop to b3 check. King came to d3, just putting a bit of pressure on the pawn on d4. We have king g6 trying to just enter in this white area. So white simply first played bishop to d7, taking away the square of f5. Bishop to d1, a waiting move by white, and now we have bishop to d2. So white idea is very simple. He now developed this bishop. White idea is to play bishop to b4, bishop to c5, and grab the pawn on d4, which is completely winning for white. After playing bishop d2, black played f5. And now there are many ways for white to win the game, but Alireza Firouzja just chose the just a complete winning game, which is bishop to f4. After bishop f4, David Howell played bishop to g7. If you would have just gone for the bishop trade, basically the pawn is on the black square, something like bishop b3. King captures the pawn, and basically black cannot do anything in this position. It's complete block on the king side, and white will simply go on the b4, capturing the pawn on a4, and white is a 2-pawn plus, which gives complete winning game to white. That's why bishop trade didn't happen, and black played bishop b7, bishop g7 back, bishop to d6, bishop to f6, bishop check, king h6, and now we have bishop c5. So black even lost his d4 pawn. We have f4 final try, bishop in d4, bishop to d8, king to d2, hitting the bishop, bishop b3, bishop to e5, a pawn trade, and after bishop a5 check, king c1 on the move number 57. David Howell with the black pieces resigned the game, and Alireza Firouzja with the white pieces won the game. The reason was very simple, that David Howell resigned the game because already completely winning. Yeah, white can simply play bishop to b5, bishop d3, and play bishop to c2, trading off the bishops. And yeah, black actually cannot do a thing in this position. Yeah, first of all, white king is just completely safe. White can play bishop f4 with a check, and there is going to be no checks for white then, and white is just completely winning basically. So that is the reason after on the move number 57, David Howell resigned with the black pieces. So this was a fantastic game played by both the players, David Howell as well as Alireza Firouzja. And now Alireza Firouzja is the sole leader again after completing the 10th round, and Caruana Fabiano in the 10th round drew his game. So basically in the 11th round, Alireza Firouzja is just half point ahead, and he's the sole leader. So his winning chances are just completely very high to qualify for the candidates played in 2022. So till then, stay tuned. First of all, if you like this interesting game, and even if you like my analysis, then please make sure to like the video. And if you are new to my channel, then make sure to subscribe the channel, because I'm going to come up with these new videos for you. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess Vibes.